Ist das Teil, also der Effekt wird auch sein, dass da...
A lot of trains.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing I wanted to tell you is the water, some days later, the water in that pub rose as high as that. Not from the rain, but from the water.
And 30 months later, we had a similar thing, the water rising even higher.
And then they found out, well, our previous flood protection system didn't get in the air.
Now look at this, they put in a sort of barrier here, mobile barrier.
And I remember the moment on television when they broadcast the moment when the water, the Rhine, began to flow over this.
All our Romanesque churches were severely damaged. Yeah, and imagine all the houses around were affected too, right?
This is the square where our oldest economic association, when the newbies pledged their oath of allegiance to never say North Germany. That's what I didn't understand. I saw those kind of parades from all those people. I didn't understand it. Of allegiance, the pledge is to onions. This is a big office room.
Found in the grave of a female surgeon. Isn't it interesting? Because those instruments look very much like, well, you wouldn't be surprised if they operated you next week with instruments like, well, nobody likes to be operated.
Little boy next to her. Well, that little boy is Nero. Nero was Agrippa's son. And in order to get him on the imperial throne as soon as possible, Agrippina killed her husband Claudius with a poisoned mushroom dish. And Nero became emperor at age 17. And after some years was so annoyed at his mother always interfering with his business that he decided this woman has to disappear from the face of the earth. And he tried to poison her 3 times, but she would take an antibiotic every day and survived all that. Then he invited her over for a reconciliation dinner in the Gulf of Naples in Bahia. That was a luxury resort. There is a long tradition of describing the character of the people sculpted out in the figures in the what's it called, the postament underneath. Underneath Agrippina's statue, there is a black widow because she murdered all her men. And in this case, well, Konrad von Hochstadt, that archbishop, was known as a person very, very egomanic, very ego person, and that's the way that they described him. It really has a history in art history. Yeah? Here underneath, well, that is where normally you see this mosaic, but now it's covered, they put a sort of tarp with a photograph on it. So this is not original, but it gives you a bit an impression of how it might look like. The photograph, the reproduction there on the hoardings gives you a better impression.